We'll look back at those wins now first with Central Connecticut defeating the Blue Devils 9-5. And it was a game that I think Auburn learned very quickly, which I don't think they were taking these teams lightly, but they knew that they had to play at a high level all weekend long or it was going to be an embarrassing weekend. A lot of SEC teams went down this weekend. So, you can't take any seeding for granted. You have to go out there and play ball. And
that is true.
Auburn, learned that lesson pretty early on as they had an early 4-0 lead, and then that was quickly taken away. It was 4-4 at one point.
Yep.
And then the offense did what they did to come back and win that game. But the big thing that I take away from that game is not the offense scoring 9 runs, but the play of Carson Myers. Carson Myers came in and was an absolute dog for those 6 innings that he was out there, 9 strikeouts. Cam Tilley, he did well for an inning, but then it just kind of, faltered away a little bit. And Carson Myers, not only did he dominate on the mound, but he saved Auburn's bullpen too for what could have been an eventful weekend, knowing the way that, or really both the Stetson and NC State games played. And NC State, of course, putting up a big number on Central Connecticut too. So what the weekend could have been like. But Carson Myers just absolutely dominating on the mound and preventing Auburn from using a ton of pitchers when they probably didn't need to.
Whew. Taylor, you took it right out of my mouth, man. What Carson Myers did set the tone the rest of the weekend because I felt the energy in Plainsman when we go up 4 and then Cam just didn't have it. And I really feel like it started out the gate with the drop fly ball by Rembert in right field. And that was like the trickle down effect of him just not being locked in. And you've seen in previous starts with Cam is he will have major league stuff. And then it's just one pitch, something goes terribly wrong, and then it just kind of trickles down from there. And I feel like them not getting off to a clean start really hurt Cam and his ability to go further in the game. And I'll be honest, Carson Myers come in, and he was a guy that started last year for a little bit. And, last year didn't go well. You were 8-22. In the SEC, you didn't make the postseason, scratch it, move on. And he comes back this year, and Carson has been lights out of the bullpen. So now with Carson coming in against Central Connecticut State, he throws 6 innings. He's great. Like you said, 9 Ks, electric stuff. I loved there was a couple of strikeouts in the night, Taylor, where he really showed his emotion. And sometimes I'm not big on pitchers showing emotion. But after the last 2 years of Auburn baseball where we went 0-2 in our own regional, losing to Penn and Southern Miss in 2023, and then 2024, we don't even make the postseason. We didn't make Hoover. It was 8-22. So this year I was like, dude, show the emotion. Get fired up. This is a close baseball game. People think Central Connecticut State, they're like, oh, we should blow them out. Y'all, Central Connecticut State had like 5 guys that they were hitting over 330.
I mean, they had the not the conference, the entire nation's leading hitter.
Yes.
On their roster playing second base too. So these guys weren't to be taken lightly, and they weren't even supposed to win their regional too. If you go back to all the D1 baseball forecasts and all that, they pretty much said, all right, Long Island's going to be the team, and Central Connecticut said nah. So the teams that aren't expected to win their conference titles but do, those are the ones you have to be afraid of, because we see that if you're watching college baseball, if you're watching the MLB, if you're watching JV baseball, it's who's hot at this time of the year. And Central Connecticut they were one of those teams that you really had to look out for, because they were pretty solid, not only at the plate, but pitching wise, they really didn't have a lot of things that like really jumped off the page with you, but their defense was pretty solid too. So not only did you have to take care of what you needed to do by you being defense, but you had to put it in places where their fielders weren't, because they would make you pay.
So I was asked before we played Central Connecticut State, should we throw Dutton in game 1 or should we stick with Cam Tilley? And I said, you stick with Cam Tilly and you save Dutton for either Stetson or NC State.
Mm-hmm.
And some people disagreed with me. They were like, well, you have to win game one, right? And I said, but y'all, if we can't hit Central Connecticut State, then we probably just don't deserve to win the regional. And it's not a knock to Central Connecticut State, but I knew they only had one guy, Taylor, and that was the Munn kid. That's the reason he threw 120 pitches.
Yeah.
And even though Auburn started lighting him up, they kept him in because they didn't have anybody else. Like they knew that after Munn and the Auburn game on Friday night, they had nobody else. So once they got down, they were like, okay, well, we're just going to ride him to save the little pitching that we do have left. And that's why he stayed out there for what, 8 innings, 7 innings, seven and 2/3 or whatever he was out there for. And so I knew that all we had to do was put up 8, 9, 10 runs against Central Connecticut State, get a dub, and then you have your ace going the next night against what a lot of people thought was going to be NC State, turned out to be Stetson, who I think was one of the scrappiest teams in the country, Taylor. That team right there, I mean, toe-to-toe could beat anybody in the country on any given night. They were a scrappy club, man. And so I'll tell you another tone setter, too, for Central Connecticut on that Friday night was the Lucas Steele bomb. When it was a 4-4 game, he come up and he sent one out and it almost hit the dorms. It was an absolute bomb. Sent it out there in the student section. And when it got up, you just heard the place say, like, okay, we're good. You know, like that got us back in the lead. It's 5-4 now. We're feeling it a little bit. Carson's on his game. We're good. And so I felt like that set the